We don't need that, Bob.
All right, I have started the recording. Go ahead and confirm that.
Confirmed.
No, right.
No idea what. I didn't know what you wanted there.
There you go. Okay, so we are online. We're delighted to be online with Mark Dawson of the Grassroots. Is it the Grassroots or just Grassroots?
People call it whatever, but officially it's the Grassroots. I always tell people to go, "Hey, what band? Oh, it's the Grassroots." 3 words. I always say
Right.
that
Yep.
because there was a period of time, even on the drum head, where it said Grassroots as one
Yep.
word,
Yep.
but it's officially 3 words.
Yeah,
Or
that's very good. Very good. Yeah,
the.
because I've learned the hard way not to say the Foo Fighters in front of Dave Grohl. Makes him crazy. So yeah.
But did you say it like Christopher Walken? I don't know if you
No.
I don't know if you've ever heard that story. Oh my gosh.
Have, yes.
Foo Fighters. The way
Right.
he says it.
There is nobody like Christopher Walken. He's an absolute legend. So as are you guys, man. We're going to get to that in just a minute. I don't know what you know about Masters Radio. I'll tell you that we are building a music experience community focused on artists like the Grassroots, and like you, who were more popular more than 20 years ago. We've learned to fill some gaps in that experience for both the artists and their fans. For example, corporate benefits and a mission that it's all about the artists are one of the things that we provide. We think that artists, and that are doing what you're doing and literally wrote the soundtrack to my life and many others of my generation, deserve the kinds of benefits that companies who have their employees enjoy: healthcare, financial benefits, and the like. We think gig workers like the artists that we're talking about here deserve all that, and we're putting all that together for you as well. Real-time engagement with the fans. We do meetings like interviews like this, and also some live stuff as well. And as we shape this community, as I said, it's all about the artists. We always ask, as one of our first questions, what would you like to see the music business become for artists like you and perhaps the next generation?
Wow, that's a great question. What I'd like to see, and I believe we've been seeing it, artists have taken control of their music. And this is not just a very recent thing, but it really began in the 70s, and more and more and more artists have gotten control. Since the advent of the internet, it's really been a game changer because your promotion, you can cut out the middleman. If you need to promote, you go directly to the fans, via websites and streaming services and such. But I think, putting myself in that fold, part of that whole independent recording became so much easier. Recording at home, you don't need massive machines and tapes, so you just need a laptop and a few other things to get by. So I do like the direction recording has gone. The music itself, not necessarily, but I love the direction for an artist, how it's gone. A long answer to a very simple question. Thank you.
It's good. I'm glad that you're positive on it. And the music is the music, and I don't think there's a generation. I remember in the '80s thinking this music sucks. Nobody's ever going to listen to this stuff in 20 years.
Yeah.
Were we wrong or what? '90s music, which also depressed the hell out of me, seems to be the biggest seller now. So it's all in what. There's actually neuroscience studies that show if the music you listen to when you were like college age and maybe into your early 30s at the latest is the music you're going to like for the rest of your life.
Makes sense to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've locked in long ago on basically anything Beatles, or 67 through 69 and most of the 70s. Outside of that, I don't know. I don't have a lot of interest. It's okay.
Yeah,
Some
I
of
get it. I get it. The amazing thing is, and we'll talk about how you specifically see this, is to the degree to which the reverse is true for the listeners, in that an awful lot of younger people seem to get into the music of our generation a great deal. Sirius XM's 25 and 26 channels are very popular. I spoke with Lawrence Gowan, who was sitting in your virtual chair about a year ago, and he said the number of people that come that are obviously the kids and grandkids of people who listened to that album when it first came out are showing up at the concerts. And I got to believe that's true for you guys as well. Are you seeing anyone younger than, say, us at a Grassroots concert?
Absolutely. we always joke and say it's probably a history lesson for them. But we have noticed that initially, maybe 10, 12 years ago, we'd see people and they'd be with their maybe their parents or their grandparents. They'd just be with them. But now we'll see a lot of couples in their 30s, maybe even younger, even in their 20s, and they'll just be at the show themselves just to enjoy. And I'll have to say, like, how do you know the music we do? And I go, oh man, my parents used to crank this all the time. They'd be getting high in the garage and listen to you guys, and they think we didn't know. It's like, oh, that's cool. so it really and then there's a few who just hear songs and they'll say something like, oh man, I heard Temptation Eyes, that song is just cool in any in any year. And it's true, it's a driving rock song, it's got a lot of stuff, and there is, I think the ladies really like that one a lot. They always like, oh, I just love the way they it's fun, I love playing the song. But yeah, generationally, it has crossed over a little bit, and many of the songs still hold up. Not all, but certainly many of them. The fans
Yeah,
know.
it's got. I'm gonna. Does that one of the questions I have for you? I saw Three Dog Night in November. I had a chance to chat with them a little bit as well. But one of the things that I asked them, and like the same question for you, you're one of very few bands that has the largest number of number one hits. How do you pick 15, 25 songs for a show?
Yeah, becomes dicey sometimes. Now, when we're doing like we say, a full show, 75 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever, you can stretch out and do some album cuts and things like that. But when you get to like, great example, last weekend we played with Tommy James up in Long Island, and we were scheduled to play an hour. We pretty much fit the hits in there, and then at the last minute things change. Things happen. It's like, oh, we got to cut the set short. We got to do this. So it was down to 45, and now, like, okay, now what are we going to take out of there? You take this out and people go, oh my gosh, I really wanted to hear Two Divided by Love. And then you take that out and they go, oh, what are you doing, man? I wanted to hear Where Were You When I Needed You. So you've got to, I guess it's a good situation to be in, to where you've got enough where you go, well, what are we going to do? Rather than, we got 4 songs, what are we going to do? That's the other way. And then they just, the bands who do that, obviously fill it with a cover song or an album cut, things like that. So you hear it once in a while and they go, oh man, you didn't play, the one we hear most, and there's a reason, but we hear, oh, you didn't play Bella Linda. Now that's a beautiful song, but Bella Linda just does not translate when you're playing it in an auditorium or wherever. You need to sit down with a string quartet and sing that song. So we do hear occasionally about that, but I think, with an exception here or there, we give them everything they need to hear or want to hear. Usually,
yeah, that's great. That's it is a good problem to have. Yeah, and I wonder, you're obviously the opposite side of the coin from the Blues Brothers playing Rawhide, in the country bar. Yeah, so it's, but at the same time, you're going to disappoint somebody. But one of the things that it brings to mind is, there's no original members of the Grassroots per se, right? And we talked about there's 54 of them, and one of the and the same is pretty much true for, say, Three Dog Night, another huge band, similar kinds of circumstances as far as the number of hits they made, the people who were listening to them on the radio, etc. So I think it's a good comparison. And yet Danny Hutton, that's it. He's the last of the guys in there. Now his son's playing on bass. It sort of counts, if you're somebody who's a purist. But I saw, and I got to say, when I saw an interview with you, there's a neat weather lady down in Orlando who does these interviews with rock people who apparently live there. Yeah, so and she did Brian Bassett, and I watched her of you. I tell her I said hello if you had a chance, and we're learning a lot and doing background for these things from her effort. But you told the story of, there's no better way to say it, a little bit of hate there for the fact that it isn't the guys who recorded the record in 71. I'm like, in what world does that matter? Do you hate the Jets because Joe Namath isn't there? Do you not go to see the Rolling Stones because Brian Johnson isn't there? What is that all about? Yeah. And I think what I've landed on is that the difference between a tribute band, all right, and I don't it never comes out. I play in a cover band. We're not a tribute band. I play in a cover band. We play old stuff. Okay. But the tribute bands, they sort of only focus on that. To me, the difference is, and it was a really important question, and I said I alluded to Three Dog Night before. When we saw them in November, they debuted a new song. And so one of the things that I try to use as a differentiator with that, first of all, I think, A, it's all about the music. If there's no other opportunity for you to go and see the magic of a grassroots song rendered live, why would you eschew that just because the guys who wrote it long ago or the guys who played it long ago aren't there anymore, either dead or retired or what have you? Right. That's just crazy to me. But to me, it's absolutely clear to me this is Three Dog Night because they have a new Three Dog Night song. So one of the questions I have for you is, are there any new songs coming down the pike from grassroots?
I wish I could tell you yes. I record a lot on my own, and the best way of saying it was, some people just they just want to play their hit songs and go on. They maybe don't have interest in what's new or what's maybe you don't just like writing music. I do. I've always enjoyed it, and even if I'm not writing music, I enjoy covering and doing my own versions, which I do on a weekly basis for my radio program. But that's good fun for me. That truly, and I tell, as my wife knows, that is the thing that's going to keep me young for a long time. I can literally every day that I am not on the road, I go into my studio and create something. It's sort of like, if you don't do this, my day is not complete. So the answer is no, you won't be hearing any grassroots, but I am working on a new Mark Dawson record right now. So
we're going to get to that. That's the next question, because I heard some of them, and speaking about wives, mine, who bemoans the fact that so many wonderful songs are depressing.
There are some depressing songs out there.
They really are. It's cathartic, and I get it. I understand. I've written some myself, and I have some friends in Stabbing Westward who say if it wasn't for depression, we'd write nothing at all. But you in that interview, and I've since listened to your song, you're such upbeat. How can you possibly not think the ukulele song? Come on, that is just it grabs you by the same sort of Jimmy Buffett neurons and shakes you and says it's fun.
Oh, thanks. Well, that's kind words. Thank you. And actually, there was no other pretense other than to have fun. I've told this story before. My wife and I were out somewhere, and I don't recall where, but there was a music store, and she was looking at girl stuff. And I said, "Hey, I'm going to walk over there." And there was this ukulele. I had never picked up a ukulele. I said, it was like $50. I said, "I'm going to buy it and take it home." Took it home, figured out how you tune it, and 15 minutes later, that song came out. And it was sort of a dedication. They're not so young anymore, but I had three little nieces who, whenever they would see me, Uncle Mark, play us songs. And I'd sit at their piano and play them. I'd make up children's songs for them. Anyway, I kept them in mind for that. And they were the first ones that I sent that song to. They were out of their minds, happy, and couldn't stop singing. And I went, okay, then I know it's going to be fun for everybody of all ages. And so thank you. I mean, not every song I write is a cute little ditty like that. But I'm never too deep in songwriting. There's no veiled messages from me. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you got to get some of the feelings out, no matter what they are. But at the same time, it's nice to have somebody sort of in a positive bend to their music whenever possible, and to show the positivity that they can create and inspire people like your nieces to love it, to dance to it, to that's Thanks. What it's for, is to emote, right? It's to stir some emotions up.
They do that for sure. Yeah, they even now it's been a few years. They'll bring it up and they'll play it for their children or nephews and nieces and things. So yeah, I'll do some more.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. I noticed that some of the stuff that you did was pre-pandemic, and looks like some of the stuff, obviously the stuff you're working on now is post. One of the things like that they ask the artists who live through this is it's probably the single game-changing worldwide event as far as impact to how we work, both creatives and non-creatives. And I was kind of curious, what lessons did you learn about being creative in isolation? You mentioned you have a home studio. I was talking to Ron Wixow, and when he did what we're doing now, I noticed there's a cymbal here, a drum in the middle. I said, he's on his throne. He's taking this call on his drum throne. And I asked him about it. And he said, yeah, when I do stuff for people, they tell me on Zoom what they want. I turn around, play, turn around back so I'm
Oh,
facing the camera again and say, hey, do you like that? So people have learned this is the way to work. And this could be a
right.
very valuable way to create it. Has that been the same experience for you?
Well, I didn't do any creations with others, but what I did, and it really sort of morphed into it, but it was a good thing for a lot of people. I began doing online concerts every day. And from 15 minutes to 30 minutes a day, I would just pop up. We would call them pop ups. And I did that for 438 days in succession. And
Wow.
yeah, it sounds like a daunting task, but the truth is, I felt, well, I think others felt too. There was a connection to people that were online. They didn't have entertainment. They couldn't go down to the local pub and hear a band or buy a concert ticket to go see the Foo Fighters or whomever. Um, and it just kind of started by a day or two. I'd come on and play a couple cover songs, maybe an original song. And my wife said to me, she goes, there's an awful lot of people who are at home and have no one to talk to, nowhere to go, and it's not going to change anytime soon. So she was really the catalyst that gave me the idea about maybe I should do this with regularity, but that regularity became every day. And that led to me creating a song called In Isolation, which I felt we were going through. And that song really connected with a lot of people. And so it helped because I really felt that we had a connection. And the amount of people that have told me this after the fact really made it all worthwhile for me. I did a couple of full length concerts as well. We even did one in pajamas where we invited everybody to be on video and show us that we had a nice pajama party on a Saturday night. So
That is brilliant. That's just brilliant. We always have to make the best of a bad situation. And I suspect, just like your wife said, that was very therapeutic for a lot of people because along with
myself
the
included,
isolation came fear.
right?
Yeah.
And therapeutic for myself as well. Which is really, you can't ask for better than that. Everybody got something out of it. And people say, why do you keep doing that? Why? Because I love it. And if someone else is loving it too, I don't need any more reason. We're good. And that's it.
Sure.
I mean, you can love something and do it all day long, but if others don't enjoy it, why bother?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely true. And the funny thing, it's a very common theme amongst the musicians I've spoken with, about eight to 12 of them, all around the same age group that have been doing it for 40 odd years. And they all say the same thing. You just said it a few seconds ago, keeps you young.
Oh, no
You know,
doubt. Yeah. I think I do this too often. I think back when I was 18 or 19, maybe even 20, when I was like, this is it. I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to do this by the time I'm 30. And then that didn't work out. And I would think, I'm not going to be one of those old guys. To me, the only guys who were old guys were people who sang doo-wop. I always thought those were the old guys. I'm not going to be that. Well, who knew? I ended up being in a doo-wop group for about 8 years, and yeah, I never thought I'd be doing it at almost 68 years old and still loving it. That's the thing. I still love it.
that's great. Yeah. And you're at the age now, I like to say there's a period of time you spend paying dues, and then there's a period of time you spend collecting them. And when you're as old as we are and you're collecting your dues, you only do the stuff that's fun. And it doesn't surprise me that this is something that keeps you young because I feel it myself. But to have, to see, like I said, Lawrence Gowan of Styx, he said the same thing. Willie Nelson, 92, just started
Unreal.
another tour. Dolly Parton, 80, what? I won't say because a gentleman never
Yeah,
does.
I think no one
But,
knows. Dude.
probably
No
no
one
one
knows
knows,
Dolly's
but
age.
one of her biggest selling albums ever is this new one. The guys in
Rock star.
Foghat, who I saw the bunch of haters say it ain't Foghat without Dave, the same old stuff that I'm sure you ran into too. And I was, like I said, met him in March. Dave's son and his and wife are along for the ride. They're also, I think, roughly neighbors of you, the Earls, Roger Earl and Linda, Central
Roger and I
Florida
talked
somewhere.
about
Yeah,
that. Yeah, they are in the
yeah,
neighborhood.
yeah. Yep. And said, to Logan, he said, your dad got me through really rough times. And I remember going in, I was an early employee at Guitar Center. I was in college. I had opened a store, and our broadcast promo was Driving Wheel by Foghat. So that would be the first thing that would come on. I was like, yeah, I really rock my morning. I told him when I heard that March, only a number of weeks ago, 50 years just erased from my life. And I was back in that store rocking the Driving Wheel. And I think that is so crucial to be able to do the things you love to do. And it makes all the difference in the world. And Foghat, this album has charted the best, the one they just released, of any of their albums in 50 years.
No kidding.
So there's a mix of, it makes you feel young, but in your head is the mature, old, and creative spark that has heard it all and knows what to put out there to make it work. Because you by now you know what you're good at.
Yeah, you should. You should have an idea about how it works, right? By now. Excuse me.
Yeah, there's that favorite story with Vladimir Horowitz when somebody asked him his 94th birthday when he was going to stop practicing. And he says, "Oh, I'm never going to stop practicing. And I'm getting finally pretty good."
Yeah, 94.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about that. When I was younger, I mean, all of us younger musicians, you got to practice, 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 and there absolutely is truth to that. But you get to a certain spot, and it's different for everyone. You can't just keep practicing. You need to put that application into live use, because then you start to realize, oh, I need to work on this. I need to work on that. It's when you put it in the live application, then you're not only practicing in another way, but you're figuring out what I need more work on. Sitting in your bedroom all day long and just doing scales is never going to make you great. It's going to make you good, and you'll have great flexibility, but you need to be amongst others and figure out what it is you're doing right or wrong. I think that it's just going to make people think I'm a jerk, but I don't need to get videos of these 8-year-old kids who can play the fastest riff you've ever seen. I want to see them get on stage with a drummer and a bass player and a keyboard player and rock their rock. That's what I want to see, because that's how I judge someone. That guy or that girl can really play. Not a video of them doing the riff because you can do it 1,000 times so you get it right. I'm not impressed by that. And people constantly send me videos of children. Oh, what do you think of this kid? And I'll answer things like, I'm glad it's not my kid. Things like that. So I'm mean, I know, but that's
Not
all.
mean. It's and the truth is those kids need to hear that, because there is virtuosity and it has its value in its own right.
Does.
You want to be, there are session musicians who still to this day, like just talk about Ron, who you got to be able to play all sorts of different chops, because you never know where the next paycheck's going to come from. But at the same time, there's entertainment. And when you're a commercial artist of any kind, to me, and I'm talking about painters, sculptors, YouTube influencers, what have you, it is, as for musicians, the difference in a commercial artist and an artist is who you do it for and what you do. You're doing it for the fans. They're the ones paying you. They're the ones putting you, having you do it. And, like Billy Sheehan, we did an interview, and I see it's on his Facebook post, he's gone to the hotel room to practice. He's practicing bass when I called. He'll be practicing bass when I stopped. But he said, made a point of saying, I will do anything the fans want me to do, because that is the reason I have this house. That is the reason my refrigerator is full. They get that,
yes.
That their livelihood depends upon the joy, and to some crazy ones, the pain, they'll pay for it, that we bring them by delivering to them a musical experience that they can't get anywhere else.
No doubt about that.
You're not a jerk. Yeah, you're not a jerk. It's just you're pointing out what's important. Yeah, playing scales is important. Makes you really good at playing scales. That's important. But being able to do it with other people, and being able to do it in any sort of setting, and having a monkey wrench like the pandemic thrown in the works, right, and rising above that, rising above the haters who say, you're just a cover band, saying, yes, but we're playing covers, but who's going to keep this brand alive? And
Right.
clearly it's worth it, or people wouldn't be paying what they're paying to see you guys play. So, to me, I get it. But again, music's been a lot closer to me than for a lot of people. It isn't about the players. It's about what happens when the players and the audience get together and have a experience together. Do you agree?
You know it. Yeah, you know that. You've been there. You know exactly what it is. And it's one of those things you can't put into words. You can't articulate exactly what happens. It's a body, it's a moment. Your body feels it, your mind feels it. The other people around you feel it, but it's unspoken. And I want to say it was Steve Gadd, but I heard years ago they said to him, "What's it like to be on stage?" And he says, "I don't know. My mind is numb. I go up there and I play things that I'm told, but once in a while, this thing happens where the other players on stage and you come together at the exact moment on an exact downbeat, and something happens that you can't say in words, but you go, oh yeah, this is why I do this. And he's right. There are those moments and you just go, man, that was so cool. And then you wait for it. It's almost like drugs, Can I get higher? Let's do that again. So not that I would do drugs
Right.
ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it truly is an addicting people make jokes about, oh, buying guitars is addicting. No, it's not the buying, it's the actual using them and having something like that happen. That's the addiction.
Yeah, although I do know some people who buy more guitars than they ever play. So, yeah, it's and I'm suspicious of some of them like Rick Beato, who seems to have a wall of the things. I know who I love, and he certainly knows his craft. But man, there's an awful lot of guitars there. I'm sure he doesn't play all the time. But you're absolutely right. You cannot put that into
Mm-hmm.
words. And the pleasure centers that make music matter to people are part of a brain
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't have language anyway. And so it's all about emotion. So I certainly understand that, that it's a moment. And I dare say, it seems to me it's much more rhythm sections that seem to get that because they're required to fall into a
Yeah.
groove, right? So you as a bass player, some of the drummers I've talked to, that it's sort of a requirement there. But I do remember hearing an interview with Ben Vereen, who was doing the London Company Jesus Christ Superstar, and he has the first and many people say that dare say the best part, unfortunately, was Judas Iscariot. And he would say, when I'd go out there and I'd nail it on those nights, I'd just walk back grinning because I knew everybody else was going to have to step up their game to keep up. Some of them started to resent it, but most of them thought, thank you, So you absolutely right. That moment happens. You felt it, or Steve felt it because you're quoting him. But I'm sure all the rest of them were like, yeah, this is where we're doing it. And I'll bet you some of them thought, this is what's cool about playing with Steve Gadd. And some of them probably, quote, blamed him, right? So, yeah, it's absolutely, it becomes something more than us. And that's why, again, circling back to what the grassroots really means to the people. And, I saw the Westbury Theater, which is in the round, so you can see the audience really well. We're not all, we talked about that before, but a lot of them are predominantly of the age where they were in their 20s and 30s, the first time they were listening to music and were able to control what they listened to in music. And it was the grassroots they chose. It's still them. But for them, it's what happened to them. And I think David Lee Roth said it best when he said, music is a little jar into which we pour our memories and keep them. Something like that. It's that jar. It's when they heard Midnight Confessions or Temptation Eyes or Where Were You When I Needed You, the first time, and 50 years later, they're hearing it again.
Right.
It's right there again,
Yeah, it's absolutely. And it's interesting you say that, Adam, because at least for our group, the four guys that are in the grassroots now, one thing we are adamant about, and that is we want to play those songs the way they were on that record. And whether that means there's a guitar riff here or something the piano does there, or the vocal parts, especially vocal parts, because we all know it's just the way music is. You hear the words first. And that's one thing no one will, you may not like the fact that there aren't original members. When Rob brought me in the group, he said, I want you in the band because when I'm done, I need you to take this forward into the future. And he said, it's for the fans. He felt I had the best representation of what the grassroots were about and what they do. And that was his decision. He had to convince me a while, but it was a great thing. I love the grassroots, and yeah, that I felt yes, this is a job that's tailor made for me. In fact, but you want to make the most people happy. Not everybody's going to be, but we certainly do our best to make those songs exactly like your brain says. Ah, yes, I remember that song. We don't want to give you cause to go, hey, something's different. No, nothing's different. This is the way it is. There is a song or two where you extend a little bit, like Dusty does a really great solo, a little extension on "Live for Today." That would be
Mhm.
one of the exceptions. I think we do that twice in a set. That's it. Everything is just like the record. Otherwise,
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, you're trying to be true to what really matters. And that's what, and that alone puts you a step ahead of what the haters call, these guys are posers. They're not. If you're going to commit to that, it means that you are putting your own ego and your own style. Well, I know what Mark Dawson's music sounds like. It isn't grassroots music. It's good music, but it isn't grassroots specifically. Not a lot of horns in your stuff, for example.
right?
But you're putting that aside to stay true to the music. And I think the fans should see that, frankly, it's a sacrifice to some degree, but more importantly, it's an homage. And,
It
you're
truly
saying,
is.
yeah, this is what's important to us. And I was going to ask about that because back then, every song had horns in it. Grassroots, no exception. Now, almost nothing. Nobody brings along a horn section. They
I
drink
know
too
it.
much, and there's too many of them, and they cost a lot. So,
They do.
so the
I
poor guy
think
in
the
the key
cost.
trying to do the best he can, right? So yeah, I saw the
That's true.
Jupiter
Yeah.
80 out there, doing the horn parts. But all the
Yeah.
same,
It's
it
hard
does.
when
It
those.
sounds just like the record. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, the keyboard, yeah, it's hard. You can't really get good keyboard horn sounds, but I think the fans understand. I think you're completely, 100% right. They 99% of the fans are like, hey, whatever you guys do to give us our memories, we're cool with it. And then there's the other 1% are like, yeah, I think they just whine because they want to act like, well, I know the original band. You know what kind of there is a side to that where I have to be a little snarky. And I completely understand when people, again, it's a memory. Oh, too bad Warren Entner's not in the group anymore. And Warren was a tremendously talented guy. But when people come up to say things like, oh, Creed Bratton's not in the band, so I'm not interested. And I would say, Creed was in the band for like 2 years,
Yeah.
maybe three. He's not, and then he quit music. He was just gone. But they think they're so righteous when they say it. It's like, at least know the facts. If you're going to be that way, know the real facts. The original band never lasted more than 7 years, the bulk of the original band. I mean, I've been in the band 16 and a half years. The other
Yeah.
guys, 40 whatever years. I don't know how many exactly. So don't give me this, oh, true, they're the original band, but they were gone quick. they,
Yeah. You have earned your mantle. And it's funny because I had the same conversation with Lawrence Gowan. Of course, Styx was legendary for Dennis DeYoung. He was a
I grew
fantastic
up in
writer.
Chicago. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. And still a great musician, in his own right. He's not Lawrence
Mm-hmm.
Gowan, and Lawrence Gowan's not him. But that was a huge ad for Styx because, and you're kind of similar. You had a career. You have a career. He has a career as
Right.
Gowan, apart from Styx. And yet they have been true to the music, but B, leveraged his unique strength. And I heard that in you. I mean, there's a lot of production in grassroots music because there was when they recorded and lots of overdubs and things like that. You're out there on a stage doing it and nailing it.
Thank
And
you. Wow.
it's I mean, and all of you are doing that. You're right. The harmony vocals are key to that. You got to have that. That is what the brain centers on when we're
Yeah,
listening
it
to
is.
music. If it is vocal music. And so you guys nail it. And I don't think anybody can take that away from you guys. I don't think anybody serious tries. But it's a rewarding thing to see that. And I see it a lot because no bands we talk to, you have to be 20 years popular first, or we're not even having a conversation with you. Taylor
That's
Swift isn't
right.
on Masters Radio. She's not old enough yet. So most of the people we talk to are in a realm where they were in a band that had personnel changes between now and then.
Right.
And we're seeing it too. So it just makes sense. And to me, something like what you've done with grassroots, where Rob was smart enough to understand there's a legacy in the brand. It wasn't called a brand when they were around, but that's what
Right.
it is now. So he was smart enough to do something with it that would outlive him. And and many others are the same way. I mean, Danny's got Three Dog Night, Roger's got Foghat, and they're both around, but it looks like they're grooming their younger generation. Eagles have done it with Henley's son. You know,
Oh
um,
yeah.
it's become the family business, and for a lot of these guys, and it makes perfect sense to me that the legacy of the grassroots is not who played in it and when and for how long, but what it delivered. And I got to tell you, from what I heard, the little bit that I've listened to live, there's not enough of you guys on YouTube. I'm disturbed at that. But all the songs that I've heard, and most of it from that tour, that Happy Together tour, fantastic, just fantastic. And I think YouTube surfers who never knew what an LP turntable was are going to stumble across that and go, hey, this is different. There's four people singing at once. There's four people playing music at once. There's no orchestra. There's no backing track. There's no turntables. There's no lights. This
Yeah.
is different, and I love it.
We
And
just
I
played
think
the
that's
music.
just play the music,
Right.
because the rest of it will fill in. Patrick Stewart, Star Trek, and the
Yeah.
famous actor, Shakespearean
Picard.
actor,
Yeah.
yeah, Picard, said, how is it you don't get bored and you're doing a play doing the exact same lines the same way every single night for 4 years? And he says, it's never the same night, ever. And the reason is the audience.
True.
They're
I've done
going
a
to
few
react.
plays. Yeah.
And I'm sure you see that with your crowds. There's some crowds, like I think you said in the other interview, you've done the Westbury a couple of times. I'm sure
Many times. Yeah. Many.
each time it's been a little different, because of who attends and some of the reactions they get, some of the songs you put in and took out for that set. They're all ephemeral. They're all their own moment in time. They're all deserving of love and gratitude for your sacrifice to be there, get on a plane, go schlep the gear, put in the
Yeah.
time that you get ready for it. That's just fantastic. And we as people who are kind of ambassadors to an audience who loves your music want to make it really clear to you, we love it. Thank you.
Well, the hardest part is the getting there, as you just mentioned. If it weren't for that the hellacious travel, I would do this for free.
Yeah.
I would play anywhere, anytime, no charge whatsoever. But Wayne Avers, he's Mickey Dolan's band leader.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne was I ran into Wayne somewhere, and I say, hey, Wayne, how you doing, man? He says, well, Mark, I'm pretty much miserable 23 hours a day, but that 1 hour on stage makes it all better. And
Yeah,
there's something to that. It really, the day can be horrible, and most travel days are not fun. And then you get on stage and you go, yeah, this is why I like this. And
I
then
get it.
go home and
I always tell people, yeah, our gig fee is to pay us to bring our gear in and take our gear out. We play for free. It's the only way to make the math work anyway. And then Brian Bass was saying, the only big, because I asked him, what's the big difference between now and then when you first started? And he said, the funny thing is, nowadays I get on airplanes. I used to get on buses. And the biggest difference there was rentable backlines. The ability to
right.
go someplace and all the gear you want, you pick it from a menu, is there, tuned, ready, go. That's kind of cool. I mean, it's got to make it a little easier, but still, travel is travel. It's never fun.
Yeah, we have the backline thing, and I'll tell you what, when you get there, what you want is going to be there. And when you go back to a venue again and again, it's cool because a lot of these the backline guys, we work with them so often. They'll take photos of how you set your amp, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll put it that way when they bring it to you. It's like, you guys are the greatest, man. That, to me, that's the cool stuff that people, little perks, and you go, I want that guy because they really know what they're doing, and just things like that. But yeah, you want your own gear. Anybody would, a drummer, doesn't matter, keyboards, drums, guitar. If you're not playing on what you normally play on, you're at a disadvantage. So you definitely want, what you're used to. Make it,
Yeah,
everything to make the show as best it can be. But yeah, you don't want to carry it though.
that's
You
right.
can't
Yeah,
carry
yeah.
it.
Yeah, the old Ampeg SVT pound per watt theory. Yeah, yeah, you don't want any part of that anymore. Yeah. So,
So yeah, the stories. I'm surprised my back isn't blown out because of Ampeg days.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, that's yeah. No, man, those are the
I'm a
Wade.
keyboard guy, so I'll raise you Hammond B3 and Leslie's
There
for
you
you.
go.
But yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
then okay, we can talk because you I've lifted many a. I love when they call them cut down when the Hammonds
yes,
were converted or cut down. Cut down to what? To 900 pounds instead of a
yeah,
thousand.
right, yeah, right, yeah.
So we carry those up fire escapes and down fire escapes in Chicago.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh man, what a nightmare! What a nightmare! All right, so get off the fact that it's the studies of nightmares. About 6.5 to 10 million people are going to see this, Mark. What's
Hi,
something that we
everybody.
haven't? Yeah, what's something that we haven't talked about yet? You'd like these people to know we're here.
What haven't we talked about? Well, let's see. The Grassroots are going on an Alaskan tour. That'll be next week. We'll be starting. That is the one place in the U.S. or the U.S. territories that I have not played at. So
Oh, cool.
this will be a full circle. Next week will be full circuit. I'll play. We're doing 3 shows: Anchorage, Kenai, and another city. It's probably a famous one. I just can't remember. So that'll be fun. The Grassroots will be doing that this summer. I mean, this May. Uh, Summer regular dates. I'll be doing my radio show I do it every Thursday night, Making Noise with Mark Dawson. Uh, that's pretty much it. Working on my new record, and just I love meeting the fans whenever I can at all the shows. So that's always a good thing. We won't see them in Alaska necessarily. Well, maybe we'll see some, but once we get back, we're always in Las Vegas. We're always in New York somewhere.
I think you're going to find you have some grassroots fan in Alaska.
Well, they probably wouldn't book us if there weren't a few people
That's
buying
right. Yeah.
tickets, I guess.
Yep. 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 I think you guys are going to be fine. Well, it has been a treat having a conversation with Mark Dawson of the Grassroots. And as I said, a band that has been so influential in so many people's music experience, myself included. As I said, their Grassroots record was the first record I ever bought. It was just, and to this day, there's still tunes that I love. But we spun up in my band Midnight Confessions. So just recently,
Yep.
because we want to cater to that generation as well. So it has been a treat speaking with you. I'm going to shut off the recording now, and we'll chat for just a second.
Thank you so much, Adam. I appreciate you having
Quite
me
welcome.
on.